Just a couple of weeks ago, the storyline in Iowa was Trump versus Cruz. Now much of the discussion is Cruz versus Rubio. A.B. Stoddard, Associate Editor and columnist for The Hill, is in Iowa, joins us now. A.B., nice to see you. Top story on The Hill, made it all the way to Drudge Report. Headline, buzz builds for Rubio in Iowa. His folks are talking about hashtag Marco-mentum. Does it have real momentum behind Marco Rubio?
Yeah, any late surge right before the caucuses over this weekend historically has produced good results and is significant. The momentum for the candidate at the very end is really critical because people are still undecided, and that's why you see Marco Rubio getting attacked more specifically by Ted Cruz, who's using his last-minute dollars instead of attacking Donald Trump to attack down in the polls Marco Rubio. He doesn't want Marco Rubio to either eclipse him and come in second or come in a close enough third, almost tied. That's something he was not planning on. Ted Cruz has an extraordinary operation here. He's been working this state for 3 years. He put together an incredible sort of firewall here, a monopoly here of conservative leaders and a good ground game, and he doesn't want to see Rubio eclipsing him on caucus eve. Rubio is can feel it in the crowds, and people are feeling it in the polls, and obviously, as your viewers now know, we're awaiting a very significant Des Moines Register Bloomberg poll that is usually the most correct. It'll be coming out later today, and Rubio is hoping to see some real tangible results in that poll.
Well, in the last poll, the NBC poll that came out a couple of days ago, he was running a solid third. It certainly surged in his poll numbers in that. And there's a lot of folks going back to 2012 when Rick Santorum was third in that very last poll before the 2012 caucuses and then went on to win. You say the Des Moines Register poll is the most reliable. Really, how reliable are any polls given just how different caucusing is from voting?
Well, that's true. I mean, you can't live by the polls because you'll die by the polls. But for Marco Rubio, he can hope, if he doesn't do as well as he's expecting in that poll tonight, that he is Rick Santorum 2012, and he's going to surprise that poll and come out on top anyway. But if he looks like he's made headway as of tonight in that poll, it will tell undecideds that he's looking like a potential winner, and it'll really help sway the people who are still weighing Rubio versus Cruz or Rubio versus, I don't know, Bush or someone else. So yes, he can defy that poll, and maybe he will, but he obviously would like to see some final momentum numbers for himself in that poll because it'll make people who support Rubio really believe that he can do it. And that's why you see Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, Robbie Mook, saying we'd like to come out on top in the late polling because people will be convinced, wow, she can actually take Bernie Sanders and come out. So you want a good polling number over the weekend.
And as you just brought up Hillary Clinton versus Bernie Sanders, much tighter in Iowa than they originally thought. As Ed Henry and I were talking about, Barack Obama came out, beat Hillary Clinton in Iowa 2008. That was the beginning of the end for her. What is your sense right now, and not only in terms of how the Iowa caucus is shaping up, but also in terms of how these latest revelations in the email scandal are playing in right now to the concept of Hillary Clinton winning in Iowa?
Right. Look at the most recent polling. She's always ahead of Bernie by just a little bit. He has been lowering expectations, saying it's going to be really hard to increase turnout enough to the point where I can win. Because he had late momentum, the expectation was, oh, he's going to beat her in Iowa, and it's looking like that's not really the case, that she could probably eke it out. Also, the parts of the state, Leland, where she looks like she'll win, will give her more delegates and a better victory than if he is just turning out kids in college towns in inadequate numbers. So if you look at what's going on, these are the things that Bernie Sanders is hoping for over the weekend, that A, the email story actually sways more people to Bernie because they end up, if they're on the fence, believing maybe she's not as electable as she says, and that's been her most powerful argument. And B, when you go to a caucus site as a Democrat, you stand in little groups and rooms, and if your candidate doesn't reach 15%, you got to give up and walk over to some of the other candidates' groups. If you're a Martin O'Malley supporter and polling shows, you usually are choosing between O'Malley and Sanders. Sanders is hoping that if you're standing in the corner for Martin O'Malley and there's only 2 other people with you, you'll be convinced to go over and caucus for Bernie Sanders. That's the kind of thing that could tip the numbers, along with his saturation coverage of her email scandal over the weekend in the final hours.
Well, that coverage is continuing. Even the New York Post putting out Hillary's lame excuses for her email misconduct are crumbling. More on that later in the show. A.B. Stoddard joining us from Iowa. Thanks, A.B.
Thanks so much.